Hey, deserving listeners, Love is Blind, the reunion. My name is Dr. Kirk Honda. I'm a therapist and a professor. I will remind everyone, although I'm hoping I don't have to remind y'all, to not be a bully to any of the cast members, or really anyone in life, but also particularly the cast members. Do not go after them. Do not attack them. Watch the show. Talk with your friends. We can talk here, but don't try to hurt them. Don't try to harm them. Don't participate in the mob bullying. I don't have to tell you that, but I will remind and also maybe be an advocate for that culture change. We want to continue to feel good about watching reality TV, and if we are at least passively participating in the bullying of innocent humans, then that makes us feel bad when we watch reality TV, and I want to change that, and we can all change that. Let's watch.
And said, did Devin tell you that my boss gave you guys a $1,000 check for your wedding present? And I had never heard about the check. He still, to this day, never brought up a check. It was just very weird. I'm not saying he pocketed the check. I talk to this man multiple times a day, and we sleep in a bed together, so it's weird that it did.
Wait, what? So she's saying that he was given a check as a gift prior to the wedding, obviously, and she's upset because he didn't tell her. What's the accusation? They had the prenup, which would mean that the check would be out of bounds, from my understanding of when they talked about the prenup. And of course, I'm sure there's a lot of nuance to the legalese, but the way that they described it was that anything prior to the wedding, prior to getting married, is theirs. Any asset of theirs is theirs. So, although I guess she would argue that the check was for the couple. Yeah. Huh. I mean, so if I'm Devin and I get a check for us as a couple, and I mean, maybe you forget it and then think to bring it up after you get married, which I could see. Or given the prenup and the sensitivity around this, would you know to make sure that you do mention it so that there's no misunderstanding? I don't know. There's a lot of possibilities here. And I think that Virginia just wasn't really in love, maybe ever, with him. Or at the very least, fell out of love after the getaway. And is just bringing up stuff to... I think this is one of those scenarios, and people do this, even when they're breaking up with someone, that they will look for reasons to justify why they're breaking up, when all you have to say is like, I don't know, just wasn't feeling it. And it had to do with the values conversation that we had. But also, I just don't think, when I got to know him better, I just, I think he's a good person. I just don't think we're a good match. That I think would probably be a better way of putting it, other than cherry picking. Because, if you hear this from her side, it's like, oh, he was having sex with his ex during your engagement, because that's basically what she was implying if you just heard her side. And then, oh, so he's shady with money, when there might be a perfectly reasonable explanation for it. At the very least, it doesn't sound like she had a conversation with him. I don't know. I'll keep watching.
So, Devin, why didn't you tell her about the check 3 days before the wedding?
So when my mom gave me the check, I was just holding on to it until we actually got married. And then when we got married, we're together. I'm for sure who I want to be with in my relationship. And I know that I wouldn't hide anything from her.
That last weekend was very eventful. It was his birthday that weekend. So
Yeah, I mean, what's the suspicion that somehow he's going to squirrel away $1,000 for what? Like, I think Virginia either has herself or seen some very shady behavior about money, maybe particularly men. I don't know.
I put hundreds of dollars of gift cards in it to all his favorite places. I put his school color in it. I put his favorite color in it. Cakes, balloons, the whole thing. And when I got there, I asked him to come down and help me with it. And he was like, can't you get it? And then when he came down, he was like, you could have got that. So
I speak highly of Virginia to this day when I talk about her. I think that she's...
I think I lost the thread about what she was saying. On one hand, it just sounds like she felt like he was not considerate. But is there some kind of financial accusation in there somewhere?
So I bought a birthday present for him and spent a lot of times making it a really thoughtful gift. I put hundreds of dollars of gift cards in it to all his favorite places. I put his school color in it. I put his favorite color in it, cakes, balloons, the whole thing. And when I got there, I asked him to come down and help me with it. And he was like, can't you get it? And then when he came down, he was like, you could have got that.
So she asked him to come down, I guess, from the bedroom into the living room, or downstairs to the outside to help her carry it in. Right, that must be what it is, right? And then he says, can't you get it? Why would he do that? That's why. I don't know. So if that is true, then is that some sort of power play? Is that some sort of sexist power play of some kind? Like, you're the woman, I don't need to, I mean, it sounds extreme and it sounds unlikely, but given other things that we've heard from him, there's a possibility that he is in that mindset. That's an extreme accusation, I would say. Maybe he'll have an explanation.
Just because it didn't work out between us, that doesn't make me feel some type of way or resentment towards Virginia.
This is a very interesting character that I'm seeing today because I haven't felt love or respect in the last year.
I wanted to be with her after, but our conversation showed that I don't think that she wanted to be with me.
I wanted to be with her afterwards, but I did not answer her phone calls.
I did answer your...
What is happening? Virginia dumped him he said yes. She says no. Was there a conversation before the altar? Like, hey, let's date afterwards? Because she dumped him at the altar. And then she's upset with him because he didn't call her? I must be missing something. And she wanted love from him after the altar? What am I must be am I missing something? She's angry at him. It's just, this happens at the reunion sometimes where people show a side of themselves or some kind of agenda, like they come into the reunion with like ammo and you're like, why are you, all you had to do was say it didn't work out. What's the resentment about exactly? What did he do? Maybe there's more to it. We didn't hear, and maybe there isn't in the edit, maybe they didn't film it, or he didn't say it, a rebuttal to the birthday gift thing. Or maybe it was some kind of ongoing issue between the two of them, like she would ask for help all the time. And he's like, not again. I don't know, that one's kind of weird, right? Like that's the values thing is, that's, there's a lot of people with those kind of values. The note on the bedstand thing, it sounded like we got an explanation of that. The check thing, it sounded like we got an explanation of that too. I mean, what do we think? He's like super shady. He's like trying to hide from her. There's no way to know because they didn't get married. I guess if he continued to hide it from her, right? And it almost sounded like the check was meant only to be cashed if they did get married or something. So he was just potentially waiting. But the picking, I don't know. And then let me rewind this.
I wanted to be with her after, but our conversation showed that I don't think that she wanted to be with me.
I wanted to be with her afterwards, but I did not answer her phone calls.
I did answer your phone calls, though. That's the thing. We had multiple conversations, and every conversation was like this.
He stopped talking to me completely after the wedding. I called him for about a week, and then he stopped answering my phone calls.
Wow. There are some tips of icebergs. Who knows what happened there? How is the prologue to this relationship that she was dumped? How did that? I mean, maybe that's what happens. So it sounds like they did agree to date afterwards, and they dated for a short period. And he is saying that she was angry or accusatory or something, maybe bringing up that note on the bedstand, maybe bringing up that check, maybe other sorts of things. And none of those things came out before the wedding. I wonder what kind of journey Virginia is on, given that she said that in our culture, or I don't know, that we make excuses or we like pick up the slack. We make excuses or something for the men in our lives. And then, the dam broke and she's like, I'm just going to assert myself. And then, okay, he decided he didn't want to date her anymore. That's okay. At some point, he just stopped returning the phone calls. Maybe there was something there that he ghosted her, which would be uncool. You should have a conversation. We could see him doing that, right? Because he does seem a bit conflict avoidant. I don't know. I guess it doesn't really matter. It does elaborate on the personalities because we didn't see anything between these two, or very little. There's very little on camera.
He's continued to go around and tell everybody that I ghosted him.
She says that I told everybody I ghosted her, and that's just not the case.
Well, he told me that, so.
I never said she ghosted me.
You definitely told me that.
No,
You told both of us that at a bar.
Yeah.
So I absolutely didn't say
she
that.
never reached out to you.
All three of us are wrong.
These two.
Okay. Well, I trust Molly, by the way. She seems like a very reliable, good person, balanced person, I think. But God knows, I thought Virginia seemed that way. And maybe she still is. But so Molly is saying, you told me that. But then the way Molly describes it is, the term ghosting might be defined differently by different people. Let's rewind that.
You definitely told me that.
No,
You told both of us that at a bar.
Yeah.
So I absolutely didn't say
she
that.
never reached out to you.
All three.
You said she never reached out to you. Well, that's not ghosting, right? That's not using the term ghosting. But maybe the accusation is still there that he was making it seem like he was the one that ultimately broke up with her, when in more rational, terms, he was the one that broke up with her in the end, in the sort of post-dating period. Yeah, I don't know if it really matters. And when people break up, they remember things very emotionally and differently. That's not uncommon. It's not some sort of indication of general liarhood, if you will. It could be an indication of that, but if I guarantee you and I, when we remember our difficult breakups, we have a very distorted picture of what actually happened. We remember things that didn't happen, and we have forgotten or didn't even encode memories that don't agree or align with how we felt things were happening, particularly if we were doing something that was untoward. So it kind of looks like that to me.
Questions, and I gave you answers, and I never
But your
said
answer was that she
I
stopped
never
talking
said
to
she
you.
ghosted me. We had our conversations after the wedding. She reached out to me, but every time we talked, it was more like arguing about what happened during the ceremony and like her family versus my family. I just feel like despite everything that just happened now, I still think that she's a great person. And
Okay. Yeah, it sounds to me like my speculation is perhaps getting more confirmation of it a little bit by little bit. Of course, I can't know. But I think what happened was that they decided to date afterwards, and, they both had feelings. And she was the one that dumped him at the altar. So we have to remember that this feels like he's being accused of being a jerk for dumping her. And now maybe he did a week later. They were talking on the phone a lot. So they weren't living in the same area. Like they lived in different parts of Minnesota or something. I don't know. And she was upset, and there were arguments about what happened, and he started pushing away, and he thought that he was justified, and she felt rejected. Okay.
we can just move on from here.
Well, I know it's not easy to sit up here and talk about this because it clearly involves a lot of hurt. This is a very emotional experience, and I applaud you both for being here today and talking about it, and for also seeing this through to your wedding day. Sometimes that clarity comes in the final hour, and that's okay.
Thank you guys for sharing your story with us.
Thank you
and
both for being here and being so honest.
Okay, I don't know if the host highlighted that compliment, commending them for seeing it through to the wedding. I'm going to take a guess, total speculation, that the producers told the hosts to highlight that either as a way of promoting what I believe to be the value that the showrunners have, that they make it to the altar even if they suspect or know they're going to be a no. They want people to make it to the altar. They incentivize it, right, with some small stipend that they get. I think they get like a few $1,000s if they make it to the altar. I can't remember the breakdown of all the money, but it was, from my memory, not a lot. It's some money depending on the standard of living of your area. But I suspect that the producers might have told them, hey, try to highlight that because it was good that this season they met, and or they were told to do this because they heard or had observed themselves as hosts that people were criticizing people like Virginia and Sarah and Joey because Monica said no, but she said no because she was very sure that Joey was going to say no. So people might be criticizing Sarah and Virginia and Joey for going all the way to the altar when it was pretty clear that at least the only one that you could legitimately think might have been on the fence would be Sarah. But, I find that extremely dubious that anyone the morning of, because you can call it off at any point. You can call it off the morning of, or even a couple hours before, it would be, I would prefer that if I were the person getting the no. I would prefer that if I were the family. That's just me anyway. But certainly, in all likelihood, these individuals would have known it the day before or a couple days before. So maybe these people are getting criticism for that, and the hosts are trying to get out ahead of that because they want to promote the idea of like, it's really good to see it through. Why is it good to see it through? What value are you ascribing to? That's ridiculous. That it's commendable. Now, it's commendable if, as a lot of the people will say, Joey said this, Zeneb said it, that as they're walking up to the altar, they still don't know if they're going to say yes or no. That alone should be a no. If you don't know, then you definitely should not be saying yes. That's ridiculous. I'm just looking for one more indicator. I'm really on the fence, and if the vows are to my liking, I'll say yes. Like, what do you look? What do you? It's stupid. Of course, everyone knows prior to walking down the. So what's commendable about that, other than entertainment and spectacle? I don't judge them for that. Like I said, Ben and Devin and Monica said no, so I guess there's no harm or foul there. But do we believe that Ben and Devin were devastated? And I will say that the way that the no's were handled, during and post no, was handled pretty well. Like when Zeneb went off on Cole at the altar, there are versions of no that were like, all you had to say was no. All you had to say was, sorry, I can't say yes. Or I can't say I do, and even say a couple of reasons, but to just use the stage as a way to blast someone for things that we would later learn were extremely dubious, So they're good no's, and they all seem like good no's, and everyone seems to take it well, but I'm not on board with that notion. Although it is kind of odd, right? I don't know. What do you think? I'm curious what you think. And I think it is a matter of morality, a matter of reducing the amount of harm, right? It's a matter of compassion and care for and consideration for another person's feelings, regardless of how much of a stipend they get. And everyone on this season seems like they're doing pretty well. A lot of medical professionals that they don't always make a ton of money. That can be a false notion, but, enough. So I'm guessing that they weren't hurting for that. So I don't know. What do you think? It might be fun to watch, but if someone, let me ask you. So if someone is 60% a no the day before the wedding, should they call it off? Is it morally or is it considerate to call off the wedding or not? Or should they see it through? Either just to see it through because they committed to the process, or what if they changed their mind the next day? Or maybe even you would think that everyone deserves to see you declare in front of everyone, I don't know. What do you think? Well, it looks like they're wrapping up.
Transparent. Really, really appreciate it.
Yeah, they're wrapping up. So I am now going to take a break and pick this up again tomorrow. I am heading out the door with my wife on a double date with the Shandy podcast, if you're familiar. Charlene and Andy have a podcast where they talk about reality TV. Charlene was on The Bachelorette, and she famously bowed out toward the end. And we have a great time with them. Whenever they're in town, they live in New York, and she comes to town sometimes to be in the opera. And so when she does that, we love to hang out and go to dinner and have a couple drinks and laugh and talk about things that are fun to talk about under those circumstances. By the way, Charlene is so talented, and Charlene and Andy are so fun to hang out with. And for those of you that are fans of their podcast, they have this thing called a love fest where they'll have other people, other couples with them. And I've been trying to get Stacy to be on my podcast, so the chance of her going on another podcast is pretty slim. But I don't know, maybe if we give her a couple glasses of wine, then, because when that happens, then, she's extremely comfortable talking about all sorts of stuff. I mean, she's very comfortable talking about stuff, but she has, I think, a very common, I don't know if it's phobia, but just stage fright of microphones, A lot of people have that. I used to have that, actually. I've habituated over time, as you can tell. But there was a time when, oh boy, I remember I was asked to come on the radio to talk about some psychological topic, and it was live, and I'm not even joking. I almost passed out as they were asking me questions. I mean, I started to see tunnel vision. I was that scared. I was that anxious. I was like, I'm going to faint. And I managed to hold it together and managed to keep enough brain cells oxygenated such that I could respond sort of to the questions. I was terrified. And my wife kind of has a similar kind of thing. I don't think it's necessarily that bad for her. I think it's a different version. Anyway, so tune in next time when I continue watching and we can get into some of these other folks, the Bens and the Sarahs and the Mollys and the Daves and the Laurens and all the others. So take care of yourself because you deserve it. You really, really do.